Is Nicolo Barella on his way to Newcastle? Well, if you'd read the article in the Telegraph by Luke Edwards, their northern sports writer, who did an exclusive, you'd be absolutely convinced by the wording and the suggestion in his article that because of intensive talks that Newcastle have come to an agreement to sign this brilliant Italian midfielder for £50 million. That set off YouTube world into an absolute frenzy of headlines claiming that we've signed him. He's going to be on his way. He's our first big signing. This is a done deal. You've heard it here first, etc., etc. So if you've been watching and reading all that, you'd be in no doubt that he's basically on his way to Newcastle. However, Fabricio Romano, the highly regarded Italian journalist, sent out a tweet late last night basically saying, settle yourself down, man, nothing to see here yet. So in this video I'm going to talk about, is Nicolo Barella on his way to Newcastle or isn't he? It's coming up. Welcome back, it's Eddie here from Tyneside Live. First of all, yesterday Newcastle United and Gateshead Football Club announced a pre-season friendly on Saturday the 15th of July, 12:30 kick-off at the Gateshead International Stadium between Gateshead and Newcastle's first team. So we only had about a couple of hours notice, so there was a scramble to try and get on the link of their website to buy tickets, including me, from about 10 o'clock. You couldn't get on the website at all, so I'm only a 5-minute drive from Gateshead Stadium. I drove down there, explained that I couldn't get on, and the person in charge down there said, oh, well, the servers have been updated not to release the tickets till 10:30, make the website accessible to buy tickets till 10:30. So like probably most of you, I spent the best part of an hour trying to buy some tickets for the match. I was selected me tickets and it was in the basket, put me payment details in, and then it was basically hoofing us out at least probably 24 times. It was really frustrating, so I had to go back in, logged in again, selected another 2 tickets in the basket, same thing was happening again. Then after about an hour, boomf, it accepted 4 tickets that I'd purchased, 2 for the east stand and 2 for the south stand, so I've got 2 spare tickets inadvertently. Some Gateshead fans are quite upset at how it's been done. Because clearly, and I kind of understand to a certain extent, there's lots of, best part of 1,500 fans go to the matches every week who have probably a lot of them dipped out because obviously there's huge demand for the tickets. But season ticket holders for Gateshead, those were left to one side, so they're not going to lose out. So it sold out, I think, within about an hour or so, 11,800 tickets at the Gateshead International Stadium. It's going to be a brilliant occasion. It's going to be great for Gateshead Football Club, all the revenue it's going to bring, and it's also going to be showcasing Newcastle's new signings, hopefully, plus some of the younger lads coming through, like Lewis Miley. Secondly, before we get on to Nicolo, the fixtures were released at 9 o'clock this morning, and we have our first match at home brilliantly against Aston Villa, a 5:30 kick-off on Saturday the 12th, then followed by Man City away and Liverpool at home. So a really tough opening month to the season, but I think you have to expect that all games are going to be really tough. Newcastle have obviously qualified for the Champions League. We're going to be signing 1 or 2 great players, hopefully. And other teams in the Premier League are going to be looking at us through a fresh lens and seeing us as a real threat and look to counter the way we play. So I think the vast majority of fans from other clubs in England will probably bet on Newcastle having a bit of a hangover season because of the success we've had this season, then playing in the Champions League. Of course, I believe that they're going to be wrong, that we're going to have another successful season, but it is going to be tough. Eddie Howe is going to have to manage expectations to build on the framework and the foundations that he's been doing this season, to keep those level heads, to bring in the right players, to get the best out of them, and to make sure that we're tactically on top of our game next season so that we don't have those sorts of football hangovers that other clubs experience. Back to Nicolo Barella. Is he coming to Newcastle? So if you don't know about Nicolo Barella, he's an Italian midfielder. He's right-footed. He's a seasoned quality Italian international. He's played 40 odd times for Italy. He's also currently playing for Inter Milan. He's won most things in Italy. 26-year-old. He's in arguably the peak of his career. He's a very progressive and skillful midfielder. Great at long passes that pick out other forwards. He can turn a game on a sixpence, regarded as one of the best midfielders in Europe. So, wow, if we can get a hold of him, what a coup. Now, Luke Edwards, the Telegraph's Northern sport writer, he's claimed that this exclusive suggests that we could just basically be on the cusp of signing this player for 50 million. For me, that's where it falls down a bit. 50 million. You've got the likes of Jude Bellingham for 80 odd million. Declan Rice being touted at 100 million. You've got James Maddison, I think there's a 60 million price tag on his head. So when you think of the calibre of Barella and putting a 50 million pound price on him, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And when you go through the weeds of his article, you can see that he does talk about intensive talks have been going on for days now. Although there's a way to go, this could be our first signing. So when you read that, you think, wow, this player's coming. And of course, the likes of Keith Downey from Sky Sports, all the big journalists have jumped on it and spread, the same message that we could be on the cusp of signing him. Then you read Fabricio Romano's tweet late last night, which very matter-of-factly states that there's been no formal approach by Newcastle. There's no negotiations going on. Newcastle haven't tabled a bid. He does acknowledge, if you read between the lines, that there's some interest from Newcastle, and of course the inference as well that there have been some discussions perhaps, but also that no personal terms have been talked about or agreed. And when you read that tweet and the calibre of Fabricio Romano, that he's, and I'm not suggesting he's 100% right 100% of the time, but he does have a brand of being authentic and reliable, so most of what he says turns out to be completely accurate. On the other hand, Newcastle United fans are not fans generally of Luke Edwards. A lot of the reports he has provided over recent years have turned out to be false. Personally, I've got no problem with Luke Edwards. I read the Telegraph, I read his articles, I highly regard him. But like all journalists, I do take them with a heavy dose of salt, because there are agendas and biases going on. There are motivations to get people to click on their articles. So that's where we are. Two basically contradictory reports on the status of Nicolo Barella and whether he's going to come to Newcastle United. And you can read into either article any way you wish. Me personally, certainly for the £50 million price tag, it just doesn't seem reasonable. I do believe Newcastle are having an interest. I do believe there's probably been some unofficial discussions with the club and agents, etc. Whether I think a player of that calibre at that price is going to come to Newcastle, I'm highly doubtful, so I'm not building up my hopes. Anything's possible. These talks could advance. We could land Nicolo Barella, and if we did get a player like him playing for Newcastle United, it would set the place alight. I think he'd work brilliantly alongside Bruno in that middle three. It might mean Longstaff has to play more of a squad role next season if we did bring a player like him in. But the fact that we're being linked with a player like him just speaks volumes of where Newcastle United are at the moment. So there you go, that's my thoughts on it. This isn't a done deal. He hasn't signed for Newcastle United. He isn't on the cusp of signing for Newcastle United as I record this video about 11 o'clock on the Thursday morning. But there's still a long way to go, as Luke Edwards states in his own article as well. So we're just going to have to see how it unfolds over the next day or two. Keep our fingers crossed, but I'm not building my hopes up.